Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And people have awared me that Richard, aka Vegan Gains, has made a video about his own body image disorders and eating disorders and things like that. And by the way, yes, people are noticing I'm in a different room. I really loved the other room I was using, but the hardwood floor, all the traffic, because it was also nearer to the street. I had major sound quality issues, and I loved filming in that room, but it just didn't work. And right now, it's actually tremendously louder outside than it is normally when I filmed, and so far, it sounds quieter in here. So you guys let me know what you think about the sound quality, because a lot of people are like, you need to get a better mic, and I'm like, I have a $250 mic. I don't think I need a better mic. I probably just need to change my room over. So you guys let me know what you think. And I don't have the weaponsmithing set up. I don't have my hat on. I want the regular viewers to kind of let me know if they like that or not. Do they want me to maintain the weaponsmithing thing? Do they want the hat? Or should it just be occasional things that I do? Because I do think the shtick does get a little bit old sometimes. And I enjoy it and it's my thing. But, not everyone gets it. It does get old. People misunderstand it. But people let me know what they think about it. The point is, though, we get back to the thing. Richard, who, it's the first time I've ever seen his wife, by the way. I know he was married, but I don't keep up with his stuff unless people link me a video. And I don't think anyone's ever linked me a video with his wife, and I didn't even know if he was still married or not. I'd heard he got married, so I guess he's married now. But the thing is, he talked about his body image disorders. And I'm kind of glad that he did. And this is something that we do need to talk about. And this is one of the reasons I tell you guys out there, you really don't want to get caught up in the whole bodybuilding culture. These weird ideas that they have, because this actually interfered with his own love life, his own sex life, everything else, even with his wife. They talked about that. Because he had developed certain body image disorders that he blames largely on his mother. And, there's a possibility there of that. I mean, again, we kind of go back to the point of boys raised by single mothers don't always know how to be men. They get these very distorted ideas on what it is to be a man, very frequently, very commonly. And that's a perfect example, right? It's a perfect example. And in that case, so it sounds like she had some other negative influences that he talked about of telling him stuff like he needed to be lean to get girls, which is, nothing could be further from the truth. Everyone's got these ideas about that. But it interfered with his love life. He didn't want his girl to see him early on in their courtship or their relationship. He didn't want her to see him shirtless or naked or anything else if he didn't feel lean enough, right? That's a problem. I mean, people need to understand that. That's one of the reasons I tell you guys, do not get caught up in this silly bodybuilding bullshit. Look, train to get as big as you're comfortable with being. Get jacked, get strong, get fit, do your conditioning work, get healthy. Don't worry about this kind of shit. Like, to be honest, if we didn't have so many of these young men being raised by single mothers, guys wouldn't care about this stuff. Because men don't care, and I'm not telling you you shouldn't care about your appearance. Like, you can say that and people want to take it off to the other extreme. Because I'm not telling you that. I obviously go through the trouble to shave. I obviously care something about my appearance. I mean, I bathe at least once or twice a day. I put on deodorant, I use soap. So I care about my hygiene and appearance and things like that, all right? And so it's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't care at all about your appearance. But people interpret it that way. And instead what I'm saying is obsessing over your appearance is not a masculine trait. Men don't behave that way. It's not healthy masculinity. It isn't. It's not. And you have a whole bodybuilding subculture that's promoting these distorted body ideas to the point to where look how it's affected Richard. Right? It's affected him in a way to where he was basically developing exercise bulimia. Now he tried to say, well, I mean, I didn't have a eating disorder. I had a body image disorder. And I didn't really have anorexia, but you had exercise bulimia, right? That is exercise bulimia. Absolutely, when you're cutting and you're needing to do that all the time. And I'm not saying doing a large amount of cardio. If you have the free time, I mean, I've done it. It does work. But you've got to be very, very careful when you start doing that amount, because that is a form of exercise bulimia, depending upon the mentality you take to it. You've got to be very, very careful with that. There's something to be aware of. And yes, I did do for a little while, was doing like 3 hours of cardio every day, list cardio, because I had the free time to do it, and useful fat loss tool and everything else. But in all honesty, I don't think it's really that great of a tool, to be honest, having done it. But you've got to be careful about it turning into an eating disorder, which it can be. That can be a form of it. You know, and that was the other thing, is that he always felt like he didn't look lean enough. He wasn't lean enough. Right? That's not a healthy mentality, guys. And again, let's take us back to the other extreme. I'm not telling you that you need to become a fat ass, right? When I say that, I'm not telling you guys that you shouldn't ever diet down lean enough to have visible abs. But what I'm telling you is obsessing over it will interfere with your quality of life. It'll interfere with your mindset. It'll interfere with your confidence. It will interfere with your ability to have a job. It will interfere with your ability to be productive. And it'll interfere with your ability to be reproductive, because it will impact your image when dealing with women. It'll impact your image when dealing with women. This is an absolute problem. It's something you need to be aware of. You need to think about, right? Kind of a big deal. The other thing that I kind of want to take with that is he kind of says he doesn't have an eating disorder. And I do wish he would be less biased towards his veganism, because the truth is, when you start looking more closely at veganism, eating disorders and veganism are tied very, very closely. Now, I do know of people, you have guys like Mark Ripito and the Starting Strength people, who say veganism is an eating disorder. They won't work with clients who have it. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I think it can encourage eating disorders. And the reason for it, what is usually your big cause with eating disorders? One of the biggest things is seeing a morality aspect, your self-worth being associated with food choices in a negative way, right? Being associated with a negative way. And I personally think veganism contributes to that. Now, we do know, based upon research, that veganism itself is oftentimes used as a mask for eating disorders, because it's a socially acceptable way to become anorexic. So you have that component of it, and that's been studied and been noticed, particularly in women, right? A lot of really anorexic-looking women who are vegans, they are actually legitimately anorexic, and they use the veganism to mask it. So you have that component, but then we have the other component that I would point out. Having a moral view of your food choices, right? Having a moral view of your food choices, and that's one reason I've been promoting the orc mode thing, is not necessarily because I think that style of eating is going to produce the most muscle gains. I don't believe that. It comes down to psychology, right? It comes down to confidence, mindset. There's self-programming associated with that, of me pushing kind of the orc mode diet and eating all the bone-in meats and everything. But there's a larger picture, and that's because I'm telling people to eat food choices there, or what I'm doing personally, and I mean, I'll advise on it later, of breaking the concept of morality being associated with your food, whether it's a religious mandate, right? That's why I specifically tell people to, eat combinations of food that violate multiple religious faiths, like mix your pork and cheese together. It's great, right? I tell people to do that. It's to break up that idea of morality being associated with your food. And the same thing, you're eating a pig, it's an intelligent animal. You eat bone-in meat, get it with the bones, get the pork ribs, right? So that you know that you are a predator. Do you understand that? And I don't mean an obligate carnivore, I'm talking omnivores. Humans are cooked omnivores. We're cooked food eaters. And that includes meat, right? That's part of our evolutionary process, and that's understood by modern science, right? We know that meat and bone marrow and things like that, we have a pretty good idea of how they contributed to our intelligence and development as a species. It's kind of intrinsic to the species. And I'm not using the naturalistic fallacy here to say that because it occurs in nature, it must be right. But let's go back to the point of that is the state of humanity. It is part of our identity. And when we start putting this artificial morality on our food choices, that can absolutely, in the long term, contribute to eating disorders. And the disordered eating that you see with people out there comes from either, number one, a body image disorder, causing the eating disorder. So people say, well, I have a body image disorder, not an eating disorder. Well, are you doing exercise bulimia because you feel too fat? Are you dieting down all the time because you think you're too fat? I mean, bodybuilding itself encourages that. It absolutely encourages that. It encourages eating disorders. So your body image disorder can become an eating disorder. Then you take someone like Richard, who clearly has his own eating disorders, his body image disorders that he admits to, but then he gets involved in a diet and lifestyle choice that puts moral tags on his food selection. And they know that that's not even absolute. Even vegans who look at it know that animals and other things are still dying and being chalked up and suffering for their vegetables. They know that, but their argument, well, it's intent and it's maybe quantitative. All right, it's quantitative. meaning less animals die for your food. And they try to pull, oh, it's cruelty-free. No, it's not. No, it's not. Veganism kills billions and billions of animals also, even eating vegan foods. But they try to put this morality on it, right? They're putting a morality on their food choices. Well, that's not healthy. That contributes to eating disorders. I mean, you can go look at the data on it. And that's why I would push people to specifically do things like the Orca mode diet, to where you're eating pork and cheese and meat and all this stuff every single day, bone-in meats, all this stuff that gives you all these amazing nutrient profiles, but it also reminds you of your place in the food chain. And that does affect your mentality. It does affect your confidence. It will affect your training, because there's a self-programming element that goes with that. And I think it's important that we break up this idea of morality with food. But I mean, he is very much in danger of developing serious eating disorders himself. He already has body image disorders. When he already feels that he has to do 3 hours of cardio because he's too fat, even when he knows that he's at a low body fat, right? When he knows he's at a low body fat, that he has to do that, that is a form of eating disorder at that point. It's just that instead of purging by vomiting, he's purging on his bike. Not a good mentality to have. He's already admitted he has the body image dysmorphia aspect. You combine that with following a sort of food system that where you are militant about believing that certain foods are just evil, and that you're evil if you consume them, and everyone who eats them is evil, right? That's a bad combination. That's a bad combination. That's not mentally healthy. That's not psychologically healthy. That's not in his best interest. He probably needs to abandon the whole vegan thing. Start eating meat. Start eating dairy. Stop worrying about being ripped. That's what I would advise. It would probably do him some good. Be helpful for him. And he needs to undo all that negative programming that his mother instilled in him. Right? Be my advice. All right, guys. Well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.